Okay, everyone. I'm going to try and replicate the video that was lost. Um, if I'm causing offence to anybody, I do apologise. No offence was intended, but uh, so forth and so on. Anyway, it was about the moon and the thought that if you just go online, right? I was looking the other day, yesterday. NASA have good enough. They've put all this data in the public domain, and there's a scientific report. There's all sorts of stuff on about the moon. Here's a page out the scientific report. Excuse the scribbles that are on it, right? And as you can see, the information that's on there is part of a report, a scientific report from Apollo 16 that talks about the chemical elements that are in moon rock, and it's amazing to see. If you look at the information here, it's in the public domain, dude. I haven't done anything particularly special with it, right? It's just looking at the information and going, hey, wow. Um, it contains silicon, oxygen, titanium, aluminium, chromium, iron, manganese, magnesium. Excuse me just a minute there. Calcium, sodium, potassium, phosphor, strontium, um, lutetium, lutetium, I think, rubidium, scandium, nickel, cobalt, a little bit of iridium and forgotten what IR was. Iridium, gold. It also contains carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, zinc, and copper. Right. Now, with all of that, what we could actually do, and there's also uranium on there as well, and either thallium or lead, zirconium, hafnium, uh, oh, chemistry is of right elements analyzed. Yeah, yeah. So there's all these chemical elements from that are actually present on the moon, right? I do apologise to the mom, not me puppy self, because I'm feeling a bit just anyway. But from all this stuff, what we can do is we can make a whole load of things. We can make iron, we can make air, we can make concrete out of the soil, you know, the moon. We can make kerosene, which is hydrogen and carbon. And the way we make the hydrogen is we can collect the particles from the sun, whether they be protons, hydrogen, or helium, directly from the sun, right? The ejecta from the sun, and we could collect that on the actual moon, and then we can put the protons with the electrons to form hydrogen, make as much hydrogen as we want, and from that we can make fuel, we can make anything, literally anything. And one of the things we can make is water. If we combine the hydrogen with oxygen, we could make water on the moon. So one of the little experiments that I was proposing to either NASA, ESA, the universities, and the combination thereof, was to literally make a probe, send it to the moon, to make literal water from nothing more than the rock, right, and the sun particles that are plasma or whatever. Sorry, somebody just said plasma. The sun particles that are coming from the sun, solar wind, and coming towards the moon. The thing could collect all of the protons, the hydrogen, and it could then make as much hydrogen as it wants, combines it with electricity, protons and electrons, obviously, to create hydrogen. If it just collects the protons, right, and then it could actually combine it with the oxygen to make water. So that was one little experiment. Maybe they'd objected to that. Maybe that's what it was they were objecting to. And I know how fine and how delicate the thought patterns have to be to make something as complicated and as beautiful as the probes that NASA and ESA and other people send into space. But maybe this has given them enough time to, because it was actually last night that you know. But anyway, so there's some, and people are obviously taking it seriously. It's like, hey, maybe we want to do this, you know. Now thinking about that, when we can also materialize, so we can take space granules, as I've mentioned before. As I say, this is nothing new. All of this is old stuff. We can then combine. We can aggregate the space granules to make atoms. Any particular atoms that are missing, even obviously the hydrogen. But I was just amazed from this scientific report from Apollo 16 of all analysis of the rock, of all the different atoms that are actually that make up the rocks and the soil on the actual moon. There's lots of other things I could talk about when going on the moon, like the one of the projects as well was like the Space 1999 Eagle thing. You could use that as a hopper across the. But if you're talking about the moon, as I say, there was lots of different things you could talk about. But I really just wanted to talk about the scientific data that's in the public domain on the website that you can just go and access, right? And read the data that's there. I mean, there's nothing particularly striking or about that. It's just it's all there. And as I say, you could make air, you can make concrete from soil, moon soil, and as I say, we can even make water. So there's a great experiment for the university, for NASA, for ESA, for anybody to get involved in and do. And if somebody could actually do that and send it up onto the moon, and to see, this is the water, the water challenge, right? The great the great moon water challenge. To make water on the moon with nothing more than the rock and the sun's wind. Okay, and if we could do that, that would be a brilliant demonstration of capability. Really would. So I think that somebody should be getting on and doing that. Maybe that's what they were objecting to and didn't want the world to know about it. I think the world should know about it because it's like it's competition and stuff, and I'm not getting paid, dude. I'm just not getting paid. I'm getting paid, but I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid to come up with ideas. I'm just generating ideas, and I'm in between me getting into position, right? I'm just putting stuff in the public domain because it's flipping good fun and I enjoy it. But as I say, that we can make literally everything's on the moon. The soil, the moon soil and the rock, you can make all the atoms you need, all of it, right? All the atoms are there. You can combine it and to make all the stuff that we want. And as I say, when we can materialize things, we can even make as many atoms as we want that way. But there's even radioactive stuff as well. So I think that was really brilliant. Kerosene and concrete. And don't forget, fellas, make the moon base in the moon mountain. All right, it's very important. That the reason is because of the solar wind, and also, of course, because of other things that could come from outer space that could land on a moon base. So when you see like Space 99, you got the moon base on the surface of the moon. That's actually practically inaccurate. It should be actually built into the moon mountain and sunk into it, right? That's really the way that I would do it, because, as I say, it would be a protection against radiation from the sun, and also from asteroids or meteors coming and striking anything that's built on the surface. But for now, if you could have a temporary habitat, that's perfectly all right. Of a temporary habitat, but you want something more permanent, more long-lasting, you'd have to build it into the mountain, right? You'd have to go actually build it into the mountain. In the moon mountain. So that's in my opinion anyway, let's I hope that some team around the world has picked the experiments up. In fact, I know they would have done, and that they're currently working on the idea of making water on the moon. Okay, and I came up with the idea last night, and people were like, "Shush!" And it's all we're excited about that, the idea of doing that. So now there was a team that I noticed on Facebook that they're going to send a probe to the moon to collect moon sample rock and then bring it to Earth. Well, listen, fellas, if you're that group, this would be something I'm sure you'd be very interested in doing, is making as an adjunct or as an addition or an amendment, a modification to the primary mission, would be this making of water on the surface of the moon. The difficulty, of course, is capturing the protons and creating hydrogen, or capturing hydrogen from the sun's wind, and then using those atoms to combine with oxygen to make water. And it would be interesting to see, how much water you could actually make. I mean, it could be a couple of drops of water, or would it be like a bucket of water, or a large container of water? Let's say the goal is to make a gallon of water, right, with nothing more than the moon rock and the solar wind. All right. So there's the challenge to NASA and ESA and to the various universities around the world who are interested in, obviously, solar exploration and so forth and so on. I would suggest very, 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 very important that you could actually do that. Obviously, it's easily demonstrated here on the planet. You could do it. You could get the machine to do it here on the Earth. You could get some moon rock. You could crunch it up, do what you need to do, extract the oxygen from it, collect protons from. Well, you may have to actually. Where could you get a source of protons from to simulate? Well, anyway, you could simulate the proton source, and then throw electrons at combine them with electrons to make hydrogen, and then that with the oxygen extracted from the moon rock, you could make water. So you could demonstrate it here on Earth, but then to make something that would actually do it in real time, in actuality, and sit on the actual moon, that would be quite an engineering challenge for somebody and for a team. So for the team that are going ahead and doing that, all the best, and let's hope it won't take very long for you to do. Maybe 12 months. Give yourselves a period of 12 months. It'd be very, very simple to do. And as I say, so everything can actually be extracted from the moon soil very, very simply. And as a result, we can. There's even iron on the moon. There's even iron. So if you're looking for an aluminium, and there's silicon, there's silicon in the moon dust, moon rock and the dust and stuff, and you could extract the silicon to make the silicon chips. You could even make silicon chips on the moon. So everything is there, dude. Literally everything is there. The oxygen is there. And in fact, rather than being a nuisance, the solar wind, it's actually a blessing, because the sun is throwing out all this energetic particles. And you could use that for, as I say, to collect protons, to make protons, add them to electrons to produce hydrogen, because there's no hydrogen. I don't see any hydrogen there. I don't think there is much hydrogen in moon rock, right? But there's a lot of it that's being thrown out by the actual sun. So as a consequence of that, we can use the hydrogen and combine it with other things to achieve stuff. The fact that we've even got carbon is amazing there, But kerosene, liquid oxygen, all the stuff basically that we have here on Earth. So most of the major atoms we could construct, and if we needed a source of hydrogen, you could also, as another little addition, is to decompose existing atoms and extract the protons from them. So you could use it as that way. And in fact, you could do that directly from the actual moon soil itself, which is another way of doing it, which I did actually mention. As you can see, the decomposition of lower elements to make protons. So it's all there. But if you just go to the website and download all the data, it's in the public domain for people just to look at. That's all you got to do, dude, is just look at the information, and you can see it for yourself. It's literally all there. Everything is there. So all you need to do is have. You see, once you've got this particular point of view, this idea of the things I've been talking about, when you see something ordinary like this, right, scientific report from NASA about moon composition, moon rock composition, you start to go, hey, this is, and then you put stuff together. I do apologise for not being my normal explanation of self. I'm battling some mind parasites and stuff, and but I don't want to judge because it might be for people's benefit, it might be for my benefit as well. So I'm not going to judge. But as I say, all these elements are here are brilliant. The fact we've got copper there as well, and silicon. There's a little bit of gold, nickel, scandium, rubidium, all the oxygen, magnesium, and manganese, calcium. I just think that is just totally brilliant. Everything is right there, and we can make everything that we need actually on the moon. Really can, And so this obviates the need to actually fly stuff up to the moon to be able to make stuff on the moon. We just send the tools up to the moon so that we can actually start to use the rock that's on the moon to extract the stuff, the elements from the moon rock, and then we can use those elements to make stuff, right? So this is a very, very important thing to do. Particularly, it'd be very important to have the equipment in place that enables to make the air, the oxygen, the water, and that sort of thing, and the fuel for the rockets and stuff. That'd be very, very important. So, I mean, if we're talking, because you remember I wanted to to put the ISS around the moon. So if we use that as a primary sort of point of contact around the moon, if you've got a little scientific base on the moon, and if you make fuel out of the moon rock, you can be flying and having missions from the moon ISS down to the ground, on the ground of the moon, and up again. This isn't new stuff. It's all old stuff, this, that I'm saying. If people are getting excited about it, get excited because it is great. But it's old. It really, see the bit of intimidation there. It is actually old to me. It's not new, all right? But that was one of the thoughts and the ideas that I wanted to have happen, was to have this moon ISS and to have missions to and from the surface. Push come to shove, if anything happens on the moon, well then you've got a lifeboat in the ISS, and you can keep people in the ISS and keep them alive until you can send rockets from Earth towards the ISS and service that way, service the people that way. So there's all sorts of things that become possible with that. So I really do think we do need to build another ISS and put it in situ around the moon, and also GPS systems as well. Put some GPS satellites around there, all sorts of other types of satellites around the moon, just like we've got here on Earth, so that we can, facilitate sort of communications and stuff like that. So we have long grossly underused the rock that is circling planet Earth called the moon. Grossly underused it. It's been there for billions of years. The universe has put it there. Obviously, as a fine tuner of gravitational field, which is important in the evolutionary development of life on the planet. But apart from that, it's just a great thing to be able to, the first initial step of mankind leaving our planet Earth and going somewhere else into the universe, which obviously we're going to do, so forth and so on. So I do make this appeal to NASA, to ESA, to universities, to governments around the world, that we seriously consider doing something like this, and that it's time for humanity to really start to make strides forward with respects to this particular topic anyway. And of course, the scientific exploration and stuff that can be achieved on the moon, and the things that we can do. I mean, people want to, I was thinking, like, on the back side of the moon, let's say forward, the reverse side of the moon, the other side of the moon, you could put, like, space telescopes and stuff, and, the amount of, because it'd be very, very dark, wouldn't it, So there's, I don't know whether that's a silly point that I've just said there, but it just seems to me, the science that could be done on the moon it would be very important, and of course it's establishing another base, a bit like it's like Antarctic was a thing to be is an important scientific establishment, and of course this is also even more important than that, obviously, the idea of exploration, adventure, and setting the moon as an outpost. So I'm putting that as a point to the planet Earth and to all the rulers and to the governments of the planet Earth that we should be. And I would work through the ISS, so through the international team, to be able to make that a reality. All right, we spent a tremendous amount of money on stuff in the past. Well, I think it's probably about time that mankind started to cooperate together with each other, and really started to, rather than just, you know, jostling for position and stuff, but we sort of work with each other and realise that there are people way higher and way greater capability that we've got, and they're taking care of business and stuff. And so, you know, you've got to realise and appreciate that there are people doing that, you know. And so I don't see, as a consequence of that, you see, I don't see there's any reason why people should object to me, you know, talking about moon rock, right? The fact that, you know, somebody wants an experiment for somebody to make water on the moon, it's like, fine, fair enough, you know, I've come up with, but you guys have got to flipping well make it happen. Okay, so, you know, I'm not in a position to be able to put a probe together to send to the moon, right? But some of you people out there, you're in a position to be able to do that. So, just make it happen, okay? I'm coming up with ideas all the time because it's a pleasurable thing for me to do, to come up with ideas. This is part and parcel of what I do. So, but yeah, there's everything that there's on the moon, dude. There's absolutely no excuse at all for not having a scientific base on the moon, a temporary habitat and a permanent base built into the mountain with an orbit in ISS, with all the satellites and everything around it, and with constant rockets going from the Earth to the moon and vice versa. People want to go to the Mars. I know that's been disappointing to people because NASA's just recently said we don't have the budget for it. But we do have, I think that NASA would have the budget to go to the moon. And to be honest with you, I think it's an absolutely correct first step to go to the moon rather than going straight to Mars. Although if the United States or possibly some other nation, but particularly I think the United States, could do a Neil Armstrong to Mars, well, that would be continuing a tradition on for America, and I think that it'd be right and proper, I think, in a way, really, for America to be the first to Mars. To be honest, I think they were there to the first to moon, right? Man on the moon, and you know, I think it'd be right and proper to go to Mars. Maybe they could do, you know, an Apollo. What was the one that went to the moon? Was it Apollo 10 or Apollo 8? And they went and circled the moon. They didn't actually land on it and then returned. Maybe they'll probably have a mission like that, you know, to Mars, where, you know, the astronauts could go to Mars, circle around it, and then return, not actually land on it, and then like an Apollo 11 type version of landing on Mars, and do. So, you know, I think that's really probably the way to proceed on that, really, to be honest with you. So I think all of that is definitely going to happen during this 21st century. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take. You know, the year is 2017 already. You know, and we're all getting blooming older. You know, so I know we're going to be inventing reverse aging technology and all the rest of it, but you know, hey. So yeah, but there's a lot of stuff there. I was just really amazed at that. So just something simple that you can download from the internet yourselves, dude. You know, scientific reports from NASA about the moon, a scientific paper, scientific information that you can download for free off the internet for nothing. And that, you know, it's all in the public domain now, and NASA's been good enough to make this stuff available to people. So, you know, let's download it and let's look at it. And I just think that's really great. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to say. And I've put this video first on my computer rather than trying to upload it because there might have been a problem uploading. But this is essentially the essence of what the video was talking about. So there were some other points as well, like the idea of, the infinite generation, where we can actually materialize any atom we want, and out of the space granules. Again, this is all old stuff, dude. And in that case, we can actually have an infinite supply. We're talking about the amount of material that's on the Earth and on the Moon, but really, when you consider that we can take an infinite amount of space, we can aggregate that space to form as many atoms as we want. Literally, I mean, it's unlimited. There is no limitation upon resources whatsoever. And so all this technology is coming along. If people are upset about that, I'm sorry, it's called progress. If you sabotage the effort to do that, doesn't matter how powerful or what a great, massive syndicate you are, it would be very well ill-advised to prevent the materialization effort to take place. I'm real serious about that, okay? Because materialization is going to be very important to humanity in the near future, all right? Because it opens up the ability to be able to materialize literally anything we want, a bit like Star Trek, and so the confines and the restrictions that are currently applied by commerce are basically overcome. But of course, the technology needs to be made. It'd be a great way of being able to overcome poverty, and as a consequence of being able to aggregate space granules to form as many atoms as we want in any orientation. We could literally make anything we want. I've called it the materializer. It's going to be the development of the computer, because computers, as you know, these days deal with just data and different types of data fields, different types of data. Well, basically, space granules and materialization technology is just an extension of that. So I can definitely see the computer becoming a materializer. So anyway, that's an additional point that I didn't actually include in the original video that went into the fucking ether. So yeah, so there's some really great stuff there. It's all old stuff to me. It might be quite new to a lot of you. Hope people find it interesting, informative, and also giving some people greater impetus to actually make this probe. Make a probe rather, modifying some particular probe that would go to the moon and could make water on the moon. Look forward to that. And so anything else we can come up with within reason, that doesn't sort of mess people or screw up government, I mean, as if it could anyway. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, ciao folks, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to put it online. Ciao. Now what am I going to do with this microphone? Yeah? Oh, I'll press the stop button. Right, okay.